Actually, this is somewhat apropos. So here are the words for tonight. I want to talk about forgiveness. Just a little bit about forgiveness. And it's a little short piece from the book of Psalms. "O Lord, you are so good, so ready to forgive." This should be a pretty easy exercise. Everybody, close your eyes for half a second, and I want you to visualize, bring up in your little movie screen in your head, who's the person in your life that makes you the most insane? Who's that person that knows how to instantly push all of your buttons? That was pretty easy, right? Maybe you had a whole flood of people come into your mind. But I want you to think about that person. Think about that person for a moment, because I want you to focus on what would it be like if you could always, like God, be in a posture and ready to forgive when that person pushes your buttons and makes you insane. Because, forgiveness is one of these things that a lot of times we kind of think about, if I forgive everybody all the time, then it's like I'm like a doormat, right? Or, it's like just kind of letting their bad behavior happen and just kind of sweeping it under the rug. But that's really not what forgiveness is about. Forgiveness is about seeing past that behavior, right? That's making you insane, and looking into the intrinsic, the basic value of that person. So you had no say of the family you were born into. You didn't vote on that. You didn't say, "Hey, I want to be born." It just sort of happened. And you had no choice. You had no say in the fact that you're a boy or a girl. That's just part of what happens. But remember that each one of us here, we are all created in the image of God. And deep inside, and when I say deep inside, I mean in this soulful, heart-filled place, deep inside, we all know that each one of us has been created for a reason and for a purpose. But here's the deal. Human mindset tells us all the time that our life should look like something different, right? It dictates that life should look like something completely and totally different. And then here we go. Here's, everyone say this with me. Wham, bam.
Wham, bam.
Wham, bam. In that moment, then value gets warped. How we see ourselves gets warped real fast. But here are the words right here. Check it out. It's in bold. God creates and makes all. God creates and makes all. And that's where that core value, that intrinsic basic value comes from. Because God places a seed. God places a seed inside each one of us that has eternal value. I one time talked about, you plant a seed and you dig it up every day to see if it's sprouted or not. Is that seed ever going to grow? You gotta let it be. You gotta know that it's there. You gotta trust. You gotta let your faith kind of nurture that seed so that it can continue to come up. The only thing that can erode that away is our own thinking and our own false and bad mindset. And if we look at Ecclesiastes, that's a fun word to say, Ecclesiastes. Chapter 3, verse 11 tells us this. God has set, check it out, eternity in the hearts of all. Eternity in the hearts of all. What that means is that your value, that seed, that basic piece, that basic core of who you are, that value, your value will echo into all of eternity. Close your eyes for half a second again. Come back to that person that makes you crazy, that person that makes you want to punch walls sometimes. Right? So the wham-bam warped value says that we're all unforgivable. You can open your eyes now. Wham-bam warped value says that we're all forgivable. Yet we all have a purpose, right? And we can imagine what that greater value looks like. Here's the word for today. Grace. And I love this right here. Grace erases what I've done. Grace erases what I've done. It replaces it with what I'm eternally worth. That's a nice way of kind of thinking about grace. Grace is what I am eternally worth, that intrinsic value. Because grace, in the end, is ultimately forgiveness. Last words are this. So if God is ready, like it tells us up here in Psalms, if God is ready, then there is a deep calling for us to be ready as well. Because grace, like God, has no limits at all. Amen, amen.